Hi guys, it's Susanna and Deborah here. So with the 2018 Oscars coming up, there are a lot of questions on everyone's minds. Why do a lot of people think The Shape of Water will be the big winner? Why is it historic that Get Out is in the running for so many top awards? What makes Three Billboards such a lightning rod? And who's gonna win?
Technical skill and really feel.
First of all, let's talk about what makes a movie Oscar-worthy. Best Picture winners often have a kind of epic, larger-than-life quality. They feature rich, complicated performances and master craftsmanship by filmmakers at the top of their fields.
And on top of all that, the Best Picture winner has to feel meaningful and relevant to its times. So when people in the Academy vote for that movie, they feel like they're actually voting for a bigger idea. You could say that for as long as movies have been around, there's been an ideological divide over what people think cinema should be for. Is it supposed to be a beautiful, glamorous, entertaining escape? Or is it supposed to reflect our reality, show what's difficult in our lives? Some years we're in a more escapist place, and that's reflected in our awards. Other years we're looking for realistic films. And sometimes we see the two categories battling it out. Like last year, La La Land and Moonlight were kind of pitted against each other. And it almost felt like supporters of those two movies were debating over what the function of great cinema should be. This year, given our politically charged climate, I'd say it's more likely than ever that voters are looking for their Best Picture to be connected to our current reality, to reflect what people think is happening in our world. And arguably, most of the Best Picture contenders do capture something important in the zeitgeist. But which one is the most of our times?
So The Shape of Water, directed by Guillermo del Toro, is leading the Oscar race with 13 nominations. It's speaking about today, but through allegory. And I think because Shape of Water explores our world through allegory and history, it may reach people on a deeper emotional level, beyond the defenses that we've built up in our polarized times. It's subtly reassuring people who may feel discouraged about what's going on in the world today that the future, it still belongs to people who feel marginalized or like outsiders right now.
It's also incredibly beautiful and visually inventive in how it tells the story. And in that way, it reminds us of Moonlight, last year's Best Picture winner. And in terms of that level of artistry, Shape of Water is the standout film on the Oscar list. It showcases Guillermo del Toro's mastery of filmmaking, his love of cinema, and his awareness of our cinematic past. So we'd bet on him for Best Director.
And if we had to bet on which movie's going to take home the big prize on Oscar night, our money would be on The Shape of Water. Sally Hawkins, who plays Eliza, is also a strong contender for Best Actress. Her performance harks back to the artistry of acting in the silent movie era. But the front-runner for Best Actress has to be Frances McDormand, who plays Mildred in the other biggest awards darling so far this year, Three Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri. Three Billboards also leaves us with a message that's relevant to today. The characters, they have so much cause for anger, but they eventually learn that progress comes from breaking the cycle of anger, and moving forward is only possible through compassion and love. Three Billboards has been picking up a lot of awards that are really good indicators for the Oscars, but it's also receiving a growing backlash, which is interesting. Some feel that it has a kind of blind spot when it comes to race and police brutality. Yes, it features a few black characters, but they don't get to do much in the movie. A black woman is even jailed for being Mildred's friend, but there's no focus on what she goes through. And the fact that Dixon's a racist, it's kind of played as a joke and then forgotten.
So how's it all going in the torturing business, Dixon?
It's persons of color torturing business these days.
People who don't like the movie feel that the British-Irish director Martin McDonagh didn't really understand America and its racially charged history well enough to tell this story with proper emotional weight. And some feel that the America the film is portraying isn't real. It's just a European's condescending, imaginary version of a small Midwestern town. In a way, though, that is the point. McDonagh has created a fictional town right smack dab in the middle of America, and he's used it as a kind of heightened setting for a parable that acts out what's emotionally going on in our country today as a whole. Essentially, Three Billboards is this year's La La Land. Both movies cleaned up at the Golden Globes and got a ton of buzz. Then some very vocal groups started to voice their discontent. So just like last year, people are playing out their social and political discussions through the Best Picture contenders. What's clear is that The Shape of Water speaks in metaphors about our world, while Three Billboards is more explicitly wading into our country's anger and some highly charged current topics. So The Shape of Water could edge out Three Billboards due to its emotional subtlety, which is more unifying than divisive. Meanwhile, if we're speaking about timeliness, in this regard, no movie can really compare to Get Out.
Get out! Yo! Yeah! Yo, shoot it! Get out! Shoot!
There's no question it exposes something very important in today's zeitgeist. Something that's never been captured quite this way in cinema before.
Apart from Dunkirk, Get Out was the biggest hit at the box office of the nominees, so it's clearly resonated with audiences. But it also came out in February, which puts it at a disadvantage, when so many of the other contenders came out later in the year.
It's also at a disadvantage because it's a genre movie, in that it's a horror. Jason Zinnemann at the New York Times wrote a great article on how our culture has a habit of calling any good horror movie not really horror. Historically speaking, genre movies in general have a hard time winning awards, and the only horror movie to win Best Picture is The Silence of the Lambs in 1992, and that's another film that gets labeled as not really a horror or more than horror. And of course, Get Out is more than a horror movie, but it's a little unfair to the whole genre of horror in general that anytime there's a really good one, we say it's something else.
Yeah, tell that to Hitchcock. And Get Out is also seen partly as a comedy, another genre that doesn't get much Oscar love. The fact that it was put in the musical or comedy category at the Golden Globes shows that people aren't really sure what to do with it.
It doesn't fit into a genre. You know, it sort of subverts the idea of genre.
There's even an interview with Jordan Peele where the director seems to suggest he maybe wasn't too happy that it was submitted as a comedy.
It was submitted, and
It was submitted?
It was submitted. It was.
Don't use the passive tense. You're a better writer than that.
It had been submitted.
Even with the release date and the genre possibly working against it, we could see Get Out being a surprise win because it does capture something so freakishly of the moment. And the things that make it an unlikely contender would make it all the more exciting if it did win.
It's also historic that Jordan Peele is nominated for Best Director. He's only the 5th Black person to be nominated for the award and the first to get a Best Picture, Best Directing, and Best Original Screenplay nomination all in 1 year. Lady Bird is the kind of story that might not strike people as grand or important enough to be a Best Picture contender. Because it's comedic, it's not super high stakes, and it revolves around a teenage girl. But the fact that it's been championed the way it has, that tells us that people are revisiting their assumptions about what kind of film is deserving of awards.
We could see this one being a surprise win for similar reasons to Get Out, especially in the context of the Me Too and Time's Up movements, and the growing pressure on Hollywood to give women more of a shot at telling their own stories. There's also a chance of Best Director going to Greta Gerwig, who's only the 5th woman to be nominated for the award ever, and the first in almost a decade. People are really eager to see diverse directors rewarded.
And here are the all-male nominees.
Call Me By Your Name is a beautiful film that's always seemed like a shoo-in for these big nominations, but for some reason so far it's not actually been winning the awards that many people think it deserves. This film is subtle, it sneaks up on you, and by the end, it builds to something very powerful. The movie really resonates emotionally, and I think some people have missed the fact that it is saying something really important about the universality of love, and the importance of not killing our feelings, embracing our pain together with the beauty of what we've lived.
But because it sends those messages through a more personal story, it probably won't take home Best Picture in a year when other films are more dramatically asserting their political relevance. But we'd still say that Timothée Chalamet has a good chance at winning Best Actor. He does such an amazing job of making you feel real affection for the character he plays, who is so earnest and just starting to open up into the world. So The Post, Dunkirk, Darkest Hour, yes, they're all timely in their own ways too. The Post is about the Washington Post decision to publish the Pentagon Papers. The parallels between that era and today, they're clear. There's the whole breaking news story element, an emphasis on freedom of the press, and of course the idea of uncovering what is our government really up to.
Meanwhile, both Dunkirk and Darkest Hour incorporate the Dunkirk evacuation of World War II, where stranded British troops were rescued by civilian boats. These two films are reminding us of a moment when the UK was vulnerable and on uncertain ground. Of course, the UK is feeling vulnerable now as well, with the lead up to Brexit. So Dunkirk and Darkest Hour are using that history to tap into something current. But their timeliness is a lot more subtle than Get Out's or Three Billboards.
Ultimately, The Post and Darkest Hour, they're classic Oscar bait. But they just don't seem to inspire the kind of passionate, emotional response that some of the other films do. That doesn't mean, however, that they're out of the running for other awards. Best Actor has a very good chance of going to Gary Oldman for Darkest Hour.
You cannot reason with a tiger when your head is in its mouth!
Dunkirk follows The Shape of Water with the second highest number of Oscar nominations. Out of all the nominees, it did the best at the box office. And many people have called it Christopher Nolan's best film ever. Again, this doesn't seem like the year that a World War II drama is going to beat out the competition. But we'd say Nolan has a shot at Best Director. This is actually the first time he's been nominated for this award.
Phantom Thread is an incredibly original movie, beautifully crafted, in the vein of a dark fairy tale or a gothic romance, like Hitchcock's Rebecca. The love story here is delightfully weird and dysfunctional, but also getting at some sort of surprising insights about love.
Daniel Day-Lewis could snag Best Actor. He's recently announced he's retiring from acting. Then again, that could be in Act 2. But Phantom Thread feels less zeitgeisty than the others, right? In a year like this one, it's been overlooked somewhat because it's not so dramatically about something current.
To recap, we think timeliness is going to be key for the Best Picture winner this year. We'd say Shape of Water will probably win over Three Billboards because it does timeliness in a subtle, innovative way and also brings that masterful craftsmanship that the Oscars love to celebrate. But we could definitely picture a surprise win from Get Out, and there's even a very small chance of an upset from Lady Bird.
We also think it's really cool that Mudbound cinematographer Rachel Morrison is the first woman ever nominated for Best Cinematographer. Go Rachel!
Go Rachel! And finally, we'd like to give a shout out to The Florida Project, a movie we think should have gotten a little more awards love this year. It's an engaging, naturalistic portrait of kids living near Disney World, observed with such humanity and building to a powerful, heartbreaking place. Willem Dafoe is nominated for Best Supporting Actor, but overall the film hasn't got as much traction as we really think it should have.
Let us know your thoughts in the comments and tell us who you think is going to take home the Oscar Gold.
We didn't do this, you guys chose us. Thank you for the choice, I appreciate it.